the author is going to deal with today is something which is considered pata b'kisin and also which is not pata b'kisin. If you look at 22, the Shulchan Aruch says pashtida, whatever pashtida is, some type of pie or a kugel, or as you're going to see, it's very unclear, but its explanation would be more important. In Israel, they call something a pashtida. So when they say pashtida, I think what they're referring to in modern Hebrew, which is necessarily the same Hebrew, but modern day pashtida, when Israeli speaks of the pashtida, they're usually a kugel, right? That's usually what they're referring to. So we'll see if that's the same. Hanafa b'tanur, so it's made in the oven, but here we go. Babasar or dagim or gvina. So what's inside? Not all together. That has other problems. But if there's meat or fish or cheese made in the oven, mevarech alav hamotzi uberkat hamazon. Meaning it's not pata b'kitznin. Okay? So we see here's something which is made in the oven, and it's filled with... Now, remember from last week when we saw pata b'kitznin, what did we see that was often placed inside this pata b'kitznin? So forget the things that were brittle. What did we see if you add to it? Fruit. Now, what would you say is the difference between adding fruit and adding... Remember, I think we saw fruits and we saw like nuts as well, right? Like, what would you think the difference between adding those things and adding meat or cheese or fish? What might be the difference in the two of them? And on one, you make a mizonot, as opposed to today, you make a mizonot. What might be the difference in the two of them?
Between a Suda and a Nasi.
Okay, one could argue. Listen, I'm having my Sephardic food names aren't very good, but you see these like Sephardi pastries that have like olives in there and like nuts. What are they called? Bakla, I don't know what they're called. Anyways, bakla. I don't remember, whatever. But those are dessert. Here, I'm assuming that most people are eating this meat, fish, or cheese dish as a meal. Okay? And therefore, so again, we might have the same type of flour content, the same type of this baking content to it, but its functionality is going to be very different. Now, that's exactly what this author questions. And he says, Divrei, take a look at 22 underneath in his commentary. There's Ashulchan Aruch Kashim D'chora, B'mashron Pashtida Memulat Me Padva Kisnin Shmegaderet K'ma'afeh Memula B'shkedim U'Tzimukim. That what's between this and something which is filled with raisins or with nuts? Madua lo, or with almonds. Madua lo techashev gam pashtida l'padva kisnin. How come pashtida does not refer to padva kisnin? The answer that is brought is exactly what you guys said. Mamish, you could be the Magen Avraham. It's unbelievable. The Magen Avraham draws the exact same distinction. And he says that it's very simple. This is not made for kinuach. This is not made for dessert. This is made for the meal. If this is the case, and remember I mentioned last week, we're going to talk about quote-unquote mizonos breads, right? Look what the Magen Avraham says in 23, the two lines there. Nearly, dehu adin isa shenilush b'mei beitzim. What happens if you have something made from mei beitzim, something out of egg juice, of eggs, right? Not egg juice, just eggs. Below shuman, even without shuman, even without a sense of, any other additional to it. So again, I think shuman v'nafit lachem gamorhu. So you're not adding this additional, fats of some sort. I think that should be shemen. I think that's, I don't know. I can't imagine shuman. Who's adding fat? You don't do that. That's probably the shemen. I think oil, and it's made lechem gamorhu. The beitzim nami mazon. So we see from here that challah made from eggs, which is known as egg challah, is hamotzi. So don't worry about it. It doesn't nullify it from what's called definition of bread. Okay. So we see from here an important principle from Magen Avraham, that something which is eaten as a meal, something which is eaten as a substitute for bread, and eaten as a meal is considered bread. So the Mishnah Berurah in 24.
It doesn't necessarily matter what it's made out of. It's
a
substitute for bread.
Right. Look, again, you can't tell me that if I take if I take the pastry over there and I put cheese on it, or I put meat on it, that's very hard to say that's something for bread, right? That's clear. So, but something which I'm using, and you'll see this is where pizza is going to come in a minute, right? Something which essentially is like a bread type of substance,
like a hamburger bun type of thing, like
right? But again, hamburger bun is just bread, right? There's no,
but if you
add anything to it.
Something for that.
Oh, I see, something for that, right? So it's a good question. What about if I substitute, cookies to hold my hamburger? So clearly that's not going to work, right? So you're right. So there clearly will have to be some type of spectrum where at what point in time do we say, no, this is essentially bread, and this is essentially not bread. So, Kabbalah Mishnah Bura is going to help us out. 24. Hainu, afilu lo kava alayhu. Meaning, even if my pashtida, I'm not kovei asuda. This would be very important when it comes to... this would be very important when it comes to pizza. Even if I'm not kovei asuda, even if I snack on it, you're going to need a hamotzi. However, when it comes to Kissim, we know if you eat a tremendous amount of cake, tremendous amount of cracker, or I think Cheerios is our example that we gave, right? You have a tremendous amount, you might actually have to wash and bench over it. However, when it comes to this pashtida, the Shulchan Aruch says, as explained by the Mishnah Bura, you need to be kovei surah on a pat of kissim, which is a tremendous amount for a motzi, but something like a pashtida, any amount, you'd have to eat. You have to wash. Why? When it comes to pat of kissim, it's generally for dessert. It generally comes to something sweet, something delicious at the end of the meal. Masha ein kein pashtida. When it comes to this pashtida dish, memula babasar, it's filled with meat. Derech laochlam. Le-re'avon k'dei lisboa. People eat this dish because they are hungry, because they want to have a meal. Have k'moshar pat basar k'she'ochel k'yachad. It's like instead of having meat in one hand and bread in the other, you're essentially combining it together.
Even though it's more like a
pashtida dish. Yeah. Right. That's a problem. It's not what's referring to. Also, because in modern Hebrew, it's also confusing people. Right. So, the kugel is giving mizonos, right? Like a lakshin kugel, let's say. Lasagna, right? Lasagna will be very interesting because lasagna has in it, that I ate last night, had cheese, tomato sauce, has cheese, it's gvina, right? This is one of his examples. The problem is that lasagna noodles are made very differently.
They're not bread.
Right, because lasagna noodles...
to even replace bread or be a bread substitute, necessarily. Right?
No, but I don't think the point is that it's supposed to be a bread substitute. Then it would just be anything that's bread. It's the idea is that it's mizonos that you're eating for a meal.
Sure.
Right, but this is where things are going to get a little tricky because it still needs to have some type of bread-ish component to it. Meaning, what makes bread versus... What's the difference in the dough of that and the dough of bread?
The sweetness, no?
So I think for a dough that they make, let's say a Danish of some sort, the dough itself, yes, of course there's water, yes, of course there's flour, but there's a tremendous amount of oil and a lot of sugar in the dough itself, right? And then besides they sprinkle, whatever they sprinkle on afterwards, that doesn't matter, right? And there's chocolate, right? They put chocolate in there as well. So that's part of the actual dough. It never is bread, right? So the question is going to be when they make the dough of lasagna noodles, what type of dough is that? So it's still a very different type of dough. If you take a look at itriot, at noodles, right? It's not the same type of dough. First of all, it's baked very differently. So it is,
Maybe no one's arguing it's bread. The whole idea of kasa b'kisanin is that it's mizonos that's used for bread.
It's mizonos that you're coming for a meal.
Right.
So public kissim eaten regularly is mizonos, but if I have a tremendous amount of it, then perhaps I'm having a meal over it. Whereas pashtida, I don't need to be, shall we say, kaveh suda. I need to have a tremendous amount, any amount. Just like a bread. If I have a kazais of bread, I'm not full. It doesn't matter. It's with wash and bench, right?
Right. The distinction he makes between pasuk Kissim and pashida is not that he's not saying that either one is bread, one's not bread. He's saying that they're both the same materials, but they're filled with different stuff,
and therefore they function differently.
Yeah.
Right. It appears that's the case. Right. But they're very made differently. It's a different dough. They're
not different from each other. They're different from bread.
Different from bread, right? But they're still meaning you're not adding sweet stuff to this pashtida. Mm-hmm. It's salty, meaty, whatever. It's different flavoring.
Yeah, you still have to wash.
So he says the following. Listen to this. This is unbelievable. Pizza, malawach, and burekas. So he says the following. The fi higayon hanal. Based on this logic, gam al pizza, malawach, or burekas. He says, based on this, a person having a bareka, now, again, not all barekas are made the same. It depends a little bit on the type of dough. But meaning, generally speaking, when you have a bareka, it's filled with potato, it's filled with cheese, it's filled with, I guess, meat. Gam im lo kavalam suda. Zot mishum shehem memulim b'mazon. Filled with mazon. V'anashim kovim alem b'derech klal t'suda. Omnam. Poskim acherim niktu b'pashtu. No, others said, listen, kevan shabitzakim shamachmana, because their doughs of the above items are very different. Nilushim b'margarina v'shemen rav. There's a lot of margarine and there's a lot of shemen, a lot of oil. Dinam kabata b'bekistin uberko tam mizona bavad. Ela imkem kava alehem suda. Right? He says, but because their doughs are different, because pizza dough is different, right? For sure, bareka dough is very different. Malawach dough is very different. And because things are very different, one can argue that maybe when it comes to these things, I would not necessarily have to wash for, unless I'm being koveya asuda. So most people are not koveya asuda, as far as I know, in bareka. I don't think. Like, if your mother were to make dinner tonight or barekas, I think you'd be a revolt in my house. Right?
It would just be an
for your
right.
whole dinner?
Yeah. Yeshivas don't count for definition of a meal.
But if you sit down to three barekas and that's your next meal.
But 3 barekas really are not very much.
How big is it?
Right, the 2 different type of barekas you're talking about. Those real thick, they're like $2.50 now, right?
Yeah. That's a break.
Yeah, you're full. No, from 3 of those.
From even 2.
There's a lot of dough. So it could be maybe having 3 of them, 4 of them you'd have to wash for. That's a real. You might get sick afterwards. Okay. The very Mishnah Buradana. Yesh makom lehistapek be'uga sheyesh ba malui. What about a cake that is filled with dak im levarach alav motzi? Right. What about if it's filled with this cake that has these types of fillings to it? And the sefer is also bracha. Heavy b'shem, which is a great sefer, by the way, on Hilchot Bracha, if anyone's interested. This is a great cover. Heavy b'shem, I'll go with Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Levarech tamid mizonot mishum delo kavim al zesuda. So then, here's the other problem. The other problem is, what about something that is not natural? No one is not customary. No one really says, okay, I'm sitting down having a cake for my meal. No one does that. What about if it's
breakfast? Yeah. For like kiddush and stuff like that, they sometimes have like cakes and cookies.
Like, of course, kiddush after davening, not before davening.
Yeah. Okay.
But do people really sit down and consume that much cake after?
Probably not. Unless
you'd have to eat a lot. Yeah.
Really.
But what about if it's so abnormal to do? Right? Like nothing what Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is telling us. It's always tamid mizonot. Mishun de lo kov. You know what is koveh suda on it, right? So
what if you
a cake that's filled with stuff, right? That's filled. Who is? And even when you tell me I take a cake, and let's say I'm weird and I fill my cake with meat. Right? What's that called? Like a shepherd's pie. What? A cronut.
Hamburgers on donuts.
Really?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah?
No,
a cronut?
Actually,
wow.
Donut, yeah.
I never heard that before.
They were putting hamburgers at kosher, like the Muslim thing. They were giving out
Really?
hamburgers inside donuts.
Sweet donut.
Wow, that's wild.
Not like the
Weird.
That's
It's like
okay.
it's like a sugar
They,
donut.
or a what's it? Or a
What's it called? Substitute.
You see sometimes that they make that's for Shabbos day. Women will often make these meat, these in phyllo dough. Deli rolls, right? Deli rolls, thank you. Deli rolls will be very, very thick. Pigs in a blanket, right? Those will be very, very thick. Those, especially if they make them. Usually if they're homemade, they're a little bit thicker than if they're bought in a store. But again, it's such a different type of dough. It's a pastry dough, and one could even argue, okay, a pastry dough by definition is not pot. It's just not. It's what about if you're to consume an entire one on its own, which is a. So yeah, that's a really good. So I think that's why for a lot of these cases, if you're going to eat a tremendous amount of cake or Cheerios, or if you're going to have a tremendous amount of these deli rolls, I think it's always better to wash and eat bread with it, just in case, because you're getting into a lot of different sveikos here. Now, just a reminder, I think we dealt with this before, that it could be that a bracha chad mein shalosh is actually deraisa, right? Birkas hamazon is mina Torah, because you're, but it could be bracha min shalosh. You're also savea on cookies and crackers. The difference is that we elongated that when it comes to Birkas hamazon. So we're not Safed Deraisa here, we're Safed DeRabanan. That's why there's room to be Mekel, and generally speaking, we're often Mekel by brachos in general. But nonetheless, I think there's, if you want to kind of maneuver carefully, if you're really going to have a lot to eat, then I think you need to definitely better to wash first some proper bread.
When it comes to pizza, you have to have a crazy argument to tell me that a whole slice of pizza, like you buy a pizza by the slice, that's like a snack. Like you'd be a really big guy if that's a snack for you.
Right. No, to me, a slice of pizza, you're
I have had situations where I've had pizza as a snack. Like I went to somebody's house one time and they gave it to me as a snack.
But in the modern era, so when Rav Moshe said you need to have, I think, 2 slices or something, that was in the 70s where no one had pizza for a meal. Today, people's like, what's for dinner? Pizza.
What does that mean, no one had pizza for a meal, though?
In the 70s, it wasn't popular. If you came home from school and your parents gave ordering pizza for dinner tonight, it's like saying we're having breakfast for dinner tonight. No one does that. But today, it's like standard. Thursday night, we're having pizza for dinner. You know what I mean? Like, we're coming over to the birthday party, we're serving pizza.
People today aren't even kovasud on bread necessarily. Like, bread is not necessarily the main component of the meal, if at all.
Right.
People often have to go specifically to places where they don't have to eat bread, right? You're on a diet where you only eat meat, or you only eat...
Right. This no carb diet, right? It's like only protein, or only, right? Fruits and vegetables with protein. Yeah, bread is going out of style. There's no question. Bread is not like
not
they
in
used to be.
yeshiva.
No, in yeshiva, they're desperate. If you don't eat bread, you're going to starve. Yeah. Well, they're not going to serve you protein. Protein's way more. Bread is cheap, right? Mm-hmm. Bread is much cheaper than protein. So that's why yeshivas...
Take off the sticker.
What was that?
They don't even take off the sticker when they're cutting the bread, so it's just stuck in
what's
onto
up with
the
that?
crust. It's the weirdest
Why?
thing.
Because they're lazy.
There's a sticker on the bread.
Only they don't do it here. No one does it here.
Subsidized by the government.
Only in Israel.
Is it? Yeah, really?
It's subsidized. Bread and milk are subsidized.
That's something.
I didn't know. That's what Angel's Bakery is subsidized by the Israeli government.
Yeah, the prices are controlled. For like a basic bread. You buy fancy stuff now.
That's why they keep the prices down. There's still a bit of socialists in Israel. Yeah. Okay.
Here also.
They don't control price of bread here.
They do. In certain times they do, yeah. Eggs and
No, eggs and milk are. But not bread.
If there's a
bread isn't.
deficit.
there's still some stuff controlled.
Yeah. What was that? Gasoline is just a monopoly. So I don't know, Galagopper, they all got together. How the price of the exact, only in Toronto, the price is the exact same in every street corner.
No, other places.
In the States, they don't have that.
They do.
No.
In LA, I mean, what do you mean exactly the same? Like by to the dot? Like
to the dot. In Toronto, the price of gas is the exact same. Unless you go 10 kilometers out, it's the exact same price. So okay, let's finish this topic. The other examples that he gives, what about a bagela? So therefore... What was that?
Bagela,
yeah. Bagel, whatever. But often pashut duma lekiachim. Shenisu shon arach shebirchadam bezonot. We shouldn't have a pat of a kissim let that Rav Haigan. It's interesting. He says, and I know people comes to a bagel. People say it depends how it's made. Non-Toronto. All bagels are bread. Bagel are the chips, or not bagels, bagels. Pretzels. Yeah, pretzels. Pretzels. Yeah, bagels are pretzels.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
So they're made. They're brittle, right? They're very brittle, and therefore they are like a cracker, more like a cracker. What about crackerim or
Matzio.
matzio? I think it's matzahs. No,
It's like
no. What are matzio?
Flatbread.
Flatbread
Yeah.
or flatbread?
Like little crackers with holes in them. It's like another type of crackers.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
You mean like pretzel chips?
Cracker room.
No, not pretzel chips.
Because that's all.
Like the kind of like saltines.
Oh, like saltines. Okay. I have no idea what that is. Or a lachamit. What's a lachamit? I guess also like a type of cracker of some sort. I guess I don't know. And in fact, this I do know what he's referring to here. Rav Sipetza Frank in his famous in his Chuvas Hartzvi. So thank goodness for his translation here, because I have no idea what he's referring to. But he's referring to crackerim. That's in that little bracketed there. Dis Yadayim, he says no. For something like crackers, of course, not that anyone here is surprised about it, even though people will eat it with dips and things that you might put on bread, it never has the shem pat. It's never made with an intention to serve as bread. And therefore, we only recite mizonot on it. And that's, in fact, what he concludes. What's interesting is our next topic, which is going to be and this will get into a little bit more detail, before a little bit more clarity. That's our next one, which is when it comes to being kovea su'uda on pata v'kisnin, he's going to try and, how much other foods, is other foods mitzaref to it, what do you really need to eat, and what's the normative behavior of people's eating patterns. What's fascinating is, of course, and it's true, the number of foods that we eat today are vast. We have a tremendous amount of different types of foods. They never had
Capitalism.
Even not a few generations ago, which makes things a lot more complicated. And because bread isn't like a staple like it used to be, also makes life a lot more complicated in terms of trying to maneuver through different brachos. Okay, we will hopefully have a little bit more clarity on the few weeks ahead. Thank you, everybody.